Hey everyone, it's Sean, apharaoh12, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of attending a track and seeing races while we're there, instead we're visiting a now extinct racetrack, and that is Atlantic City Racecourse, which you can see right there behind me. This is in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Just decided to stop by and see what's left of the racetrack, considering the fact that I can't go see races there anymore. They closed back in 2014. They've originally opened all the way back in 1946, and they've had a lot of history that's gone on at that track. So it's a shame that it's not racing anymore. But hey, we still checked it off the bucket list and can still say that we saw it, I guess, which is pretty cool. So I figured I'd stop by, take some footage for y'all to see, and also kind of delve into the history a little bit. A racetrack you may not know since it's not really prevalent in our current day. I mean, it's a pretty cool looking track. It's kind of weird, not running races, but just kind of looking at it. Man, I wish I could have seen it when it was, back in like the 1950s and 60s when it was in its heyday. I just wish I could have been here because I'm getting chills just by looking at it right now. So not to mention, when that grandstand is packed and, you got everybody watching and cheering, seeing the greats like Kelso and Round Table running on that track. So yeah, it would have been awesome. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching in advance, but I hope you enjoy the video. Atlantic City has always been a popular tourist attraction thanks to its beaches and entertainment options. The 1940s was still the golden age of horse racing, so John B. Kelly Sr. knew if he added a track to the area, it would be able to attract horse racing fans from around the globe. An Olympic gold medal rower and racing fan, John Kelly, along with Leo Frazier, Fred Scholar, and Glendon Robertson, built Atlantic City Racecourse for over $3.5 million. When it first opened in the 1940s, Atlantic City only had its dirt oval, which was 1.1 miles all the way around, which led to the commonly used nickname, a smile and an eighth, and they got the soil from local farms no more than 10 miles away, trying to help booster the Atlantic City economy. The course opened to a very successful day on July 22nd, 1946. Shareholder Bob Hope was there to greet guests as they walked in the front gate. He was just one of many celebrity shareholders that included Frank Sinatra, Sammy Kaye, and Harry James. 28,000 people flocked to the track to witness Oberod win the first race. By the time they left, they had wagered a total of $1.38 million on the 8-race card. Even though they left, they kept returning. By the end of the 24-season day, Atlantic City had averaged 15,617 spectators that wagered an average of $1.3 million a day. So pleased with the experience, fans came to call Atlantic City the racetrack of the future. On August 28, 1948, Atlantic City began its march to the national scene of American racing by debuting their premier turf course. The new turf course gave birth to Atlantic City's signature race. A year after the Washington, D.C. International debuted at Laurel Park, attracting top turf horses from both America and Europe, Atlantic City followed by adding the United Nations Handicap in 1953. The idea of international competition created by both the Washington, D.C. International and United Nations Handicap would ultimately lead as a model for the Breeders' Cup World Championships that would begin 3 decades later in 1984. Iceberg II won the first running of the United Nations in track record time for the 1 3/16 distance, and would later be named 1953's champion turf horse. But the race really picked up relevance in 1957 as Hall of Famer Round Table and Hall of Fame jockey Bill Shoemaker came to win the event. And in 1958, Round Table returned, but was beaten by Clem and his former jockey, Bill Shoemaker. Reunited with Shoemaker in 1959, Round Table was assigned 136 pounds, giving 14 to 22 pounds to his 9 rivals. Yet the champion still managed to become the first of only 8 horses to have ever won the United Nations multiple times. And his presence helped to attract other future superstars that included Mongo, Dr. Fager, Fort Marcy, Tantam, Halo, as well as eventual Breeders' Cup winners Manila and Steinle. Fans that attended on September 4th, 1959 were watching a maiden race and unknowingly saw one of the all-time greats break his maiden. That great was none other than Kelso, the 5-time Horse of the Year. Paying $14 to win in that maiden race, it would be the highest odds he would ever see throughout his legendary Hall of Fame career. The following year in 1960, John Kelly passed away, and he was succeeded as president by Dr. Leon Levy. A dentist, Levy was an early investor in Philadelphia broadcasting. as WCAU became a leading radio and TV property in Philadelphia. Success continued as former President Dwight Eisenhower made an appearance at the track in 1965. However, in 1966, Levy passed being president to his son Bob Levy, who would be president for the next 20 years. One of his major additions was adding in the Matchmaker Stakes, which debuted in 1967. Not only was purse money awarded, but the owners of the top finishers had their choice of stallion seasons to Round Table, Hail to Reason, and Jaipur. Getting the money and access to leading stallions led the race to be nicknamed For Love and Money. In 1968, harness racing was added to the Jersey track. With the harness track, Atlantic City became one of the first thoroughbred tracks in the country to add lights. The lights would help to attract beach crowds after the sun went down, and workers in nearby Philadelphia left their businesses. However, the first night of thoroughbred racing would not take place until June 12, 1976. By 1970, Monmouth Park in Oceanport, New Jersey, Garden State Park in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and Atlantic City created the Golden Triangle, each having 60 days of racing. 1976 marked the beginning of the end for New Jersey's circuit. Voters that year approved casino gambling, a major competitor to the pari-mutuel wagering market. And to make things worse, the first casinos in the state were added in Atlantic City, right near the beach in 1978. But an even more devastating blow to the racing circuit for the state came in 1977. On April 14th, Garden State Park burned to the ground. Meadowlands Racetrack opened in the fall of 1977, but since it was largely focused on becoming a premier harness track, its fall thoroughbred meeting did little to make up for the loss of Garden State. Competition from racetracks being added in the northern suburbs of Philadelphia took that city's business away from Atlantic City. Seeing a drop in revenue, Bob Levy came up with a new, controversial idea that would ultimately have a lasting impact on the entire sport of horse racing. Single race simulcasting was common in the early 1980s, but in September 1983, Levy made Atlantic City the first track in the country to receive full card simulcast racing, as the entire card from the Meadowlands was broadcasted on the track's TV screens. The idea proved successful, but was also deemed unconstitutional at the time, and the simulcasting was shut down in 1985 for several years until eventually deemed legal once again. The track continued to struggle. The opening of a new Garden State Park in 1985 did little to help New Jersey racing. Monmouth and Atlantic City's race dates overlapped. Atlantic City saw purses dropping. Stakes and allowance races were replaced with more and more claiming races. One final historic moment came on June 7, 1995. Gussie May entered the starting gate looking to break the record for most career losses. He was only one loss away, beginning his career 0 for 86. He failed to break the record that day. Setting the early pace, he accidentally wired the field and won the race by 2.5 lengths. Atlantic City continued to fall by the wayside until it finally completed its last extended meeting in 1997. From then on, the track would only be open for 6 to 10 race days a year, just to maintain its simulcast license. An attempt to add slot machines to boost revenue at the track was made in 1998 but failed. Racing was held exclusively on the turf course as the main track was no longer maintained. Major stakes races, like the United Nations and Matchmaker, were transported north to Monmouth Park, where they are still run to this day. On April 29, 2014, Perfect Joyski crossed the finish line and was led to the winner's circle for the day's 6th and final race. It would be the last time a horse entered the winner's circle at Atlantic City Racecourse. According to Equibase, a card was scheduled for April 30th but was canceled due to weather. That canceled card served as foreshadowing as the track was officially announced as permanently closed in January of 2015. And thus ends the story of Atlantic City Racecourse. Once known as the Hollywood by the Sea, home to the greatest of talents, both equine and human, the track could not survive. Like many others, the dawn of casino gambling caused the track to fall by the wayside. All that's left is an old grandstand and an overgrown track. The greatest testament, however, to the legacy of Atlantic City Racecourse are the stakes races it left behind. The United Nations is still a Grade 1 race that has served as the launching pad for horses like English Channel, Big Blue Kitten, Main Sequence, and World Approval since its move to Monmouth. And the Matchmaker still offers breeding seasons to top Windstar Farm stallions. Although the track did not survive, the races remain to remind us once a year of the glory days of one of the most popular and prestigious tracks in the golden age of horse racing. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the history of a track that was once the centerpiece of American turf racing. Do you have memories from a track near you that no longer exists? Please let me know in the comments below and share your stories. Do you think horse racing could still have a place in southeast New Jersey? Potentially at Atlantic City, or maybe come back somewhere else? After all, it is a big gambling center still, with all the casinos and so many people coming out to the beaches. What do you think it would take in order to get people back out to the racetrack in that part of the state? After all, there is still some racing presence in the minds of southern New Jerseyans. As you can see by this footage, I somehow managed to find the one Kentucky Derby table in a store on the Ocean City Boardwalk, just a few miles away from where Atlantic City Racecourse was. If you're ever on that Ocean City Boardwalk, make sure you check out Stainton's Gallery by the Sea in order to pick up some Kentucky Derby merchandise while you're on the beach. Get yourself some photos, t-shirts, etc., or at least just admire them like I did. But as you can tell, horse racing isn't completely gone from southern New Jersey, even if it is just one table selling Derby merchandise. But let me know if you think racing could ever return to the prevalence it was in that state years ago. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.